Well, Jennifer, thanks for being here on the podcast today. I'm excited to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks, Donnie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I want to start with your background in healthcare and as a registered nurse, correct?
Yes.
Why what led you to that career? And is that something like you've always wanted to do, or how did you get into that field?
Yeah, it was pretty much growing up, even as a child, I always just had a heart to help other people. And I remember living like next door to a vet. And I remember
Oh
like
yeah.
finding a bird that was hurt and would take it over to his house, like, hey, can you help, with this bird? Or, I always loved to like help people heal. It was just ingrained in my soul. And so as I got older, it felt natural to want to get into that field and dive deeper. And so that's why I was called into it. I was like, I just want to help others
Mm-hmm.
not be sick and not you know, be a less quality of life. I wanted to raise them up and help them heal. And so that's what drew me into that career.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so that's was it specifically like I want to be a registered nurse, or did it just kind of like progress into that? Like, and that's something you've known that you wanted to do for a long time.
Yeah, it was something that it didn't come initially. So always in my heart, when I was little, I always had this heart to help others.
Yeah.
And then when I got into like my late teens, I was like, I think, and going out of high school, I mean, do really you know what you want when you're 18?
No,
Most
no
people
chance.
don't, right?
My wife
Right?
does. My wife did, but she was like
Yeah.
very few, right? But
Yeah,
yeah,
there's very few out
yeah,
there that definitely have it
yeah.
down pat. I actually started off in field biology and wildlife
Oh,
and
cool.
forestry, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. I love this stuff. I loved being in nature.
Yeah.
And then I realized, yeah, I probably couldn't make a really good living off of this. So I was like, maybe I need to follow my heart and
Yeah.
go into a different direction and more stability. And so then that's where I was like, okay, I'm going to pursue this
It's funny
further.
because I have a degree in biology too. And
Okay.
same thing, like I started the degree in biology because it was like, okay, I'll get into health. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And I'm like, I'll get into healthcare. Like that's a good profession.
Mhm.
I'll be a physician's assistant or a physical therapist. Like I grew up athletic and being around sports could be something I'd be interested in. And enjoyed the degree in biology because you're outside and learning about nature and all that kind of stuff. But then I realized like after that degree, I was like, okay, I'm done. This is not the career for me,
Yeah.
and transitioned. So you stuck with how long were you a registered nurse for?
So I've been licensed for 25 years now.
Okay.
So yeah, I stepped away from my nursing job officially about 3 years ago to focus on my business full time.
Okay.
Hmm.
And is that when you started your business, or did you have your business before that?
I had this vision and I started my business in 2019, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you, I like kind of treated it like a hobby because I was
Oh
like, oh,
yeah.
I just want to help people. I want to do things, alternatively. And I started it, but I didn't really treat it like a business.
Yeah.
And then when I realized, oh, wait a minute, like here, I'm actually changing people's lives and people are getting great results. And
Mm-hmm.
I I think I need to put some more time and energy into this and actually focus.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it really changed.
So then you left nursing at that point
Yeah, I
and to
did.
focus full time into that.
Hmm.
What
Yeah.
if, like, since you've been in nursing, like, what was healthcare like? Has healthcare changed since you started to what it is today?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not even the same. When I started, it was, you didn't have as much red tape as there is today. We could, treat our patients completely differently, spend more time with them,
Mm,
and it was completely different model. And then as I got many years into my career, it was then, oh, you have to worry about like covering, documenting everything and more time on all of the little things because you're afraid that like somebody's going to sue
yeah.
the organization, and so you have to cover everything. And it got to be where, and so much of the insurance companies dictating of what we can do, what we can't do. And it got to be like, what are we really doing here? And it just wasn't in alignment with me any further. And I just felt a lot of wasn't in agreement with that per se, and also with the push of medications and not treating the root cause of the problem. And that really didn't sit well with me. And that's where I really started to feel it was unethical to me and my soul.
Yeah. What do you think led to that? Was it like insurance companies or pharmaceutical companies or like litigation, like the fear of being sued and stuff?
For me in particular, it was when I got sick. So I was working long hours as a nurse and working on night shift. And so I was not sleeping, not eating, not
Yeah.
taking care of myself. And I ended up getting really, really sick. And so I spent 5 years trying to reclaim control over my health. And I was
Wow.
seeing 8 different specialists, was taking all these different medications, doing everything I was told to do. We always joked about patients who were non-compliant. And I was like, I'm going to be that compliant patient. I'm going to do everything that my doctor tells me to do. And I'm going to, do everything. So 5 years I did that, and I actually kept getting worse and worse and worse. And
Wow.
I said, this is not working for me. And so I really shifted from being the victim mentality and wanting to blame my doctors as to why these treatments aren't working and why I'm not getting better, to really looking within and realizing the life I was living was not serving me, and it certainly was not serving my health. And that's where I really started to see that missing bridge. From the time disease manifests to the time to heal, there's a missing a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I really, when I started to see that from the outside,
Mm.
is when I started to say, like, this just isn't working for me anymore. Like,
Mm-hmm.
this model is not
Yeah.
working for me.
Yeah. It is interesting. I was just talking to a friend yesterday who's going through some health stuff, and he was like, I was just prescribed a medication, and then there's like a side effect to that, and then he's prescribed something else to manage the side effect, and I'm like, that just doesn't seem that doesn't
Yeah.
seem right, right? We're just like, okay, let's treat this. Now we're gonna treat this problem that arises because of something else you're taking. Um, yeah, it just
Mm-mm.
doesn't seem like the right way to go.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened to me. Is like I produced one side effect and then on another medication and then another one. And before I
Yeah.
knew it, I was taking all these different medications. My body is rejecting them all because it's like, you're not addressing the real root of the problem.
Yeah.
That was never addressed. And the basic questions were never asked to me. Like, nobody ever asked me, like, what is your stress level like? Do you have any past trauma? What's your diet like? Are you moving your body? Are you connected to nature? None of the basics.
Yeah.
And it was, I really started to see that our healthcare system needs to change.
Is that because is it so was the driver of that like system insurance, like is in your mind, like is that why they have to see so many patients, and they have to like find something to prescribe or change or help them in some way before they leave?
For me, the reality was, as nurses, we were trained in nutrition. We're taught, like,
Okay.
that nutrition becomes part of our blood, our bones, our tissues, our
Yeah.
cells, our organs, makes up who we are, right? And we
Yeah.
forget that.
Yeah.
We don't make that a priority. Doctors aren't trained in nutrition. It's not even part of their criteria,
Mm.
unless you go into a subspecialty, or you go into functional medicine, or you go into a different avenue that requires that, but they're not taught nutrition to the caliber. And so
Interesting.
I'm like, this is one thing that we live in a very toxic world, and we know now that, like, so much of a chronic diseases we see today are caused from ultra processed foods.
Yeah.
The body, it's creating this loophole of patterning with people.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that was the big thing, is to take back ownership of what can I control. And so to answer your question, it's multifaceted, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you. We have one avenue that is, yes, you've got the, you know, insurance companies, so to speak. You've got the first line of defense is medications,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of, let's look at the behavior. Let's look at things that we can change. Let's look at, like, your mind, your thoughts. Those things create a chemical response that's happening within the body.
Mm-hmm.
It's so many different factors. And so when I say, like, it is truly a multifaceted
Yeah.
problem. It's
Yeah.
not one isolated thing that we see today.
Yeah. Do you see it changing? Are there more people that are doing like what you're doing? Are there more people that are doing like changing within the current system?
Mm.
Or are they having to like completely step out and create their own practice, their own business to do things differently?
I think that there is a huge movement happening right now. And maybe perhaps because I'm in the field and
Yeah.
I surround myself with a lot of people that are in the holistic space, a lot of functional medicine doctors, practitioners, nutritionists, different, people that are seeing, how much that plays a part. And so I think that there is a movement happening. I think more and more people are waking up that they don't want to feel lousy. They don't want to keep taking medications. They want to know what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
And they should dig deeper and
Right.
figure that out. And so then that way you can correct the underlying problem. And I do feel that there is a shift happening. And most of my clients that come to me, that's the common thing that I hear. Look, I don't want to be on these meds. I want to
Yeah.
know what I need to do to start helping my body heal.
Yeah. Is it so like that scenario too, it's almost like people are getting to like the last resort, like, and similar to like what you did, right? You went through
Hmm.
5 years of the process and nothing changed. And then you're like, okay, I need more answers, or I need an answer.
Hmm.
And so you know, are we, I'm sure we're seeing more of that, right? And I've had other, you know, previous nurses on the podcast too, and we've had that conversation where it's like they've seen like how the system was, and like, this is not how I want to operate, and let's create something different. But a lot of the same scenarios where it's like I've been treated for so long and nothing is working, and now I need more answers.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's where people like you step in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So your business, Rooted Holistic Health Coaching.
Hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that and like what you're doing with that.
Yeah. So, like I said, when I got really sick, this was back in 2011. And when I got really sick at that time, it was 5 years prior to that. 2011 was my rock bottom. Like,
Okay.
I didn't know that I was going to make it another year.
Okay.
Like, I just had hit rock bottom with my health. It's exhausted myself.
Yeah.
5 years trying to heal myself and spent tens of thousands of dollars, all these medical tests, procedures, medications. And I said, there's got to be a better way. And so I went back to school. I started studying nutrition, started studying the mindset, started studying, anything and everything. I was so hungry for knowledge and wisdom. And I was doing
Mm,
mission trips to China at the time. And I was introduced to ancient Chinese medicine and alternative modalities. And I really started to just open my eyes to what's possible and how miraculous the body is when you give it what it wants, and it'll start to heal.
mm,
And so when I started to heal myself, over the course of that year, it was like night and day. And what I didn't realize was by me making a change, how much it was going to impact my husband and our kids.
mm.
And so as a result, my husband lost 40 pounds because I'm like, I'm not buying these things anymore. Like, you either eat what I'm fixing or you can go get your own. I don't know what you want to do. But
Yeah.
he's like, I'll do whatever you do. It's fine.
Yeah.
So he's such a sweet soul. And so he lost 40 pounds as a result. And
Wow.
I noticed our relationship started to improve because I was feeling better. He was feeling better. And I was like, wow, we like have this new energy, and our kids were seeing us in a more positive light. And so I knew like there was, wow, how much value it is on our health. Most people, we don't realize the impact that it has on the relationships, our work, mental clarity, everything
Yeah.
around us. And so I went back to school, like I said, and just started studying anything and everything. And then I was going down this rabbit hole. I was like, I just became hungry for knowledge and wisdom and started taking all these courses and hiring mentors and coaches, and up to date today, I think I have like 20, I don't even know how many. Last time I counted was like 22 certifications. And I don't say that
Okay.
because I'm like, oh, yay.
Yeah.
I'm
Look at
like,
me.
I love what I do. I'm
Yeah.
so fascinated by the body. And I also know that everybody's unique.
Yeah.
We all have our own unique thumbprint. So, I had a lot of trauma in my life up until the almost 30. And so for me, not knowing how that would show up later in my life, that was another area I needed to heal because
Yeah.
it was showing up.
Yeah.
And so that's just an example. Like, there's just so many other modalities and so many other areas, but yeah.
Yeah. So the clients or the patients that you see today, is it what's the range that you see, and who do you enjoy working with?
Yeah. So I work virtually. So my clients are virtual. So they're all over the US, and I even have some in other countries. But the primary, what I focus on is a root cause to metabolic imbalances. So I get a lot where we're at right now. To give you an example, is roughly experts suggest that we're about 93% of Americans right now are metabolically unhealthy. It is crippling our country with healthcare expenditure. And so we have hundredfolded our projection of where we are, what it's costing our country compared to what it used to be back in 1966. So
Wow.
it is crippling our country right now.
So
So
what is medical, say that again,
metabolically unhealthy.
unhealthy?
So what we see is a lot of insulin resistance
Okay.
because the high carb, high sugar, high processed foods, it leads to a lot of inflammation, a lot of insulin instability within the body. So, and insulin resistance goes under the radar. It's usually not picked up on.
Mm-hmm.
And then, people just start having vague symptoms. Like, I don't understand. I'm starting to gain weight. I don't know why.
Mm.
Nothing's working anymore. Like, I'm all of a sudden just have this brain fog. Hormones are starting, like, just subtle little things that start to flare up, and then maybe aches and pains. And then it ultimately, over time, then it shows up into type 2 diabetes, high
Yeah.
blood pressure, high cholesterol. And then we start to see bigger problems that come up as a result. So that's what I like to focus on, is restoring balance in the body, getting to the root cause of that. Because ultimately, if you look at underneath of the surface of what's driving up chronic disease, it's the same players in the field.
Yeah.
So when you can address the same players in the field, ultimately your health is going to improve.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Um, so I wrote down like, why did you start this business, right? But I think we have a pretty clear picture of that,
Yeah.
right?
I
Like,
just don't want others to suffer like I did.
yeah.
I spent, well over multiple six figures on my education and, hiring all these people. And what I've realized is it doesn't need to be, I take all of that information, condense it down into super easy to follow strategies, and I put together a completely comprehensive program for my clients, because I don't want them to have to struggle like I did. Spend years trying to figure it out on their own. Like,
Mm-hmm.
help them get there in record time,
Mm-hmm.
and just to bypass all the guesswork, because there's so much misleading information out there. More and more pharmaceutical drugs, like, oh, this will be the next best thing to help you lose weight, or this will be the next best thing. But have you really addressed the root cause of the problem? You take away
Yeah.
the medication, you still have the problem.
Right.
We
Right.
haven't addressed anything.
Yeah.
We got to change the behavior. We got to change the mind. We got to change the thoughts, the patterns.
Yeah. Do people struggle with that? Making that change, or are they to the point where, like you were, where it's like, I need, like, something has to change?
Yeah, the clients that I work with, so I screen them to kind of see where they're at,
Mm.
to make sure that they're ready to make a change. There's a readiness scale that I
Yeah.
use to
Okay.
make sure that they're ready to make a change, because I don't want to set them up for failure.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like, some people just aren't ready yet.
Right.
And that's perfectly fine. When they're ready is when change happens. And so when they're like, I'm done. I'm
Mm-hmm.
done trying to figure this out. I'm done feeling like this. I'm ready. And so I always say, when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yeah.
And when the student is ready, they're able to then receive the training, the teachings, the coaching, so they can make significant changes in their health and their
Mm-hmm.
life.
Do you think you would have started this business if you didn't have like your own battle there?
No, I don't think that I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, this, as much as it was such a dark time in my life for that 5 years, really struggling, and behind closed doors, a lot of darkness and a lot of contemplation of, am I even going to be around
Mm-hmm.
for my
Mm-hmm.
kids, for my husband, to where I am today. I think one thing is I'm completely relatable to my clients. I know how they feel
Yeah.
to some capacity, because
Yeah.
I've been in the shoes and struggling in so many different areas, but also that it's what lit the purpose in me.
Mm.
I don't
For
think
all
that
that
would have
knowledge and
come.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that would have happened had I not gone through the struggle. And so I always like to tell people, no matter where you're at, if you're struggling in some point or some area of your life, there's a purpose behind it. There's a
Yeah.
wisdom that needs to emerge. We just don't know it yet.
Yeah.
And that's where change happens. And then we can really facilitate that and be the light for others when they need it.
Yeah. It is interesting, right? Because we all have like our own battles or our own struggles, right?
Yeah.
But some people fall victim to that, and others like use that as in your case, as a resource to like launch the next thing or
Yeah.
launch the next journey for your life. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned like healthy environment, like creating a healthy environment. Community is important. I feel like I've talked a lot about community recently with some other guests and just people I've chatted with, but man, it's the people you surround yourself with is important. Like, how how is it important for your health and for what you're doing?
Well, I have a twofold question to or answer to that. So one is I just got back from a very intensive training with Dr. Joe Dispenza in Texas.
Okay.
And so we look a lot at energetics
Okay.
and the quantum field and how each person has an energy frequency that they put off. And we also know that that is contagious. So prime example of this is if you ever walked into a room and you just get a bad vibe and nobody even says anything, but you're
Mm-hmm.
just like, what's up with this in here? Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's just a bad vibe that comes off. That's somebody's energy
Yeah.
that you're picking up on, right? And so an area that I'm trained in is heart math monitoring. And so heart math shows us, this is 30 years of research from Stanford that shows us like the frequency that we put off can completely change our environment in a good way or a bad way, depending on our mood and our energetic frequency. So I look at that, where I spend my time, I want to make sure that it's around good people.
Mm.
Because when you understand how energy impacts disease and can manifest disease, you start to become very particular about where you spend your time and who you spend your time with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I look at that as I want to make sure that I'm in a good environment that is
Mm-hmm.
not going to be bad for me, bad for, if somebody's got really bad behaviors and those things, we can pick up on it. Right.
Yeah.
And another interesting perspective is there was a study done out of Harvard that, showed that people who are overweight have, or let me reframe this, that people who surround themselves with others that are overweight, let's say that they're not, but others around them in their environment are. And what researchers have discovered is you have 171% increased likeliness of becoming overweight just by your environment.
Mm.
Because you're going to probably be doing the same things, the same behaviors, the same thoughts, the same, eating out, doing the same, it's a community. And so again, you think about where we spend our time and who we spend our time with is very important. If we want to surround ourselves with very successful people, chances of us becoming very successful
Yeah.
is very probable. If we want to hang around with a bunch of complainers and a bunch of negative people, well, it's probably not going to lead us very far. We're probably going to end up like that. And then we wonder why am I not getting anywhere in
Right.
life?
Right.
Right. So environment is so important, community in those that you surround yourselves with.
Yeah, I like reading books and on personal development stuff. Like you always hear, like for business or success, like you always hear, like you become like a product of like the 5 people you spend the most time with, right? I've never thought about it from like the health perspective, but it makes total sense, right?
Yeah.
It's everything, right? It's not just health and business. It's just like everything that encompasses your life. Pay attention to who you're surrounding yourself with.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because so many times you think about, I know a lot of very, very successful business owners and they do remarkably well in business. They've got their
Yeah.
mastermind groups and they're doing the things and they're thriving in their business, but their health is not good at all
Mm-hmm.
because their patterns, their behaviors, like, let's go out, let's go get drinks, let's go out and order the pizza, let's go get this and let's get, and I'm not saying you don't ever have to do those things, moderation, of course, but I'm saying if that's an everyday patterning,
Yeah.
probably not going to serve you. So then you see these people who've built great wealth, but then they have to spend their wealth to reclaim their health.
Mm-hmm.
So I look
Mm-hmm.
at like both, look at, who am I surrounding myself with that are, mindful when it comes to wanting to live a healthier lifestyle, because that's important to me. And alongside also building a business
Mm-hmm.
that's successful
Mm-hmm.
around those that are also successful in the industry.
Yeah. Do you see more people are proactive in their health? Like, is there an increase in that too? Like, 'cause I feel like I've seen it, but I think part of it is like who you're surrounded with in that environment as well.
Mhm.
But like, are people more aware of their health and more aware that, there are certain things that need to happen in order for a person to remain healthy?
Mhm.
Has that grown in popularity as well as kind of like your business?
I wish I would say that we've made this huge shift, but when you look at the numbers,
Yeah.
statistically,
Yeah.
93% of Americans now are metabolically unhealthy. It was just 88% just a few years ago.
Oh,
So
really?
we're
So it's
not
getting
heading in a good,
worse.
yeah. And this is the first time in our history that the lifespan in our country is going backwards. We're not living older.
Wow.
We're living younger.
Wow.
That's staggering. So I like to say it's probably where you live and who you surround yourselves with. So the more people that become attuned to this,
Yeah.
the more people that are the trendsetters and like really on the path and doing this, then they're going to be influencing those around them,
Yeah.
right? So we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah.
That's why I do the work that I do, because there's a lot of education that needs to still happen. But I do feel that there's an awakening. People are wanting it, they're hungry for it,
Right.
but they just don't know where to begin because there's so much misleading information out there.
Yeah. So about that. So like what's um like how do you find that information? Like if you're looking for it, like maybe
Hmm.
you're surrounded by the wrong group of people right now, but you're like, I know this doesn't feel right.
Hmm.
Like where do I go? Like to you. Um, but if they're not connected with you, where else can they go to get that right information?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Donnie, like the first thing that I realized when I got on this journey is I went online. I never went online. We used to make fun of patients in the hospital, like, oh, they went to Dr. Google,
Oh yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're like, oh my gosh, why did they do that? They
Yeah.
must have went to Dr. Google to find us.
Yeah.
But then what I did when I was sick was I actually went online because I was looking for like, I just wanted a rock solid health and wellness plan to follow so I could just live a healthier life. And I really was so overwhelmed. I didn't even know where to begin, because I felt like everything in my life needed to change, honestly.
Yeah.
I needed to work on my mindset, my diet, movement, sleep. I mean, everything needed to change. So I started to look online, and that's when I had the first awakening. I was like, this is what people are finding? Because I never really looked before.
Mm,
And I'm like, this is scary. And so many companies out there trying to sell you on this supplement or this pushing this thing. And you hear pharmaceutical commercials all the time on TV. And I never watched TV. And I was like, this is what the average person is seeing and exposed to.
yeah.
And so that's when I went on my quest. I was like, I made a deal with myself. I'm like, look, if you can heal yourself, you're going to put together a program so others know you get evidence-based. There's no question. And everything that I do is in alignment with science.
Mm-hmm.
And we know, like, so for the average person, they wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
They're asking their Aunt Sue who lost 30 pounds, like, hey, what did you do?
Yeah.
Or whatnot. And so it's a hard question to answer because I wouldn't tell somebody to just go online to look because I don't feel that that's actually that great
Yeah.
to do that because it can be very misleading. So I always, ask like what's important to them. First of all, is taking a holistic approach important to them and not having, medications or other things involved
Yeah.
in that equation? Then start to ask like, hey, who do you know? Who do you know in the area? Start asking around. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
who, or ask their friends, and or start searching up, interviewing
Yeah.
potential, practitioners or coaches. Hey, what's your background? Where you trained? Because I've seen it too, where I've had a lot of people who claim to be coaches and they've taken a weekend course and call themselves a holistic
Yeah.
coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's scary too,
Right.
because you're dealing with somebody's health.
Yeah. Somebody's
And I take that
life.
very
Yeah.
seriously. And so you certainly wouldn't take your car to a mechanic and have them band-aid it up with duct tape and patch it up and expect to go on your road, go
Mm-hmm.
down the road and make it from point A to point B, because they didn't know what they were doing.
Right.
I'm going to take it to a mechanic who knows how to specialize in my car and the engine because I want it to get me from here to across the country,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And safely.
For a long period of time.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think if you're looking at something as serious as your health, really ask the questions, find out like where are they educated, like what's their background, what credentials do they have, what clients have they served, what's their testimonials do they have, what
Mm-hmm.
results do they provide.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really, really important to make sure it's a good fit.
Yeah. And so it sounds like just be patient with like the process. Like just do your research, kind of like what you did in the beginning, right? Just do your research, ask questions. Don't make any quick decisions on like who to work with, who not to work with, right?
Mhm.
But just do your homework and make sure that it feels right, right? Your energy level and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It feels right.
Absolutely.
Optimal like health or performance. Like what are some like what's like a blueprint there? Like if someone's looking like, okay, like this is what I want to achieve, I need to work towards this. Like what is that?
So it's a multifaceted approach. So the first thing I look at is the mind. because we can't have a healthy body with a toxic mind.
Mm-hmm.
So you gotta clean up the mind. So we have to, 95% of our behavior is unconscious. We're not even consciously aware of the decisions we're making, and having a negative conversation with ourselves all day long, like self-sabotaging or, negative in the environment and whatnot. So I always look at, first we got to clean up the mind, and we got to start having a mind of success
Mm-hmm.
and one of healing, to allow healing to occur.
Mm.
So it's really, really critical. And then I look at, foundational. I always say, we're not building a, a house on sand. We gotta build
Yeah.
the house on a concrete foundation that's going to support it for 100+ years to come.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we look at what's the foundation. And I always look at nutrition being key, because it makes up who we are,
Okay.
everything. So we got to clean up the diet and start getting the insulin response occurring in the body. So, because that's the main driver between weight loss, weight gain, optimal performance, energy, disease manifestation. There's so much that stems from that.
Yeah.
And then we build up, like we got to recover, right? And we've got to, like, I look into meditation. We got to quiet the mind. We have to, sleep, obviously, movement,
Mm-hmm.
environment, community. So there's a lot of different. So when I walk my clients through a process, we're looking at all these things.
Yeah.
So we're looking at restoration. I would say the weight loss is a byproduct of us restoring your health. Like that just happens naturally. My clients at this point is predictable. It's like 20 to 30 pounds in 6 to 10 weeks. And I could promote it as that, but I don't. I said, that's just us, because we're healing you from the inside out.
Yeah.
That's just going to happen naturally, because your body's been craving
We're not really
these
focused on
things.
that, right?
No.
But it just,
Yeah, we got to get the body back communicating with it again, like it
Mm-hmm.
should be. Get everything wired and firing together again. That other stuff's just going to happen as a result. And then you start feeling so much better, more mental clarity, more energy, less inflammation, like all the great things start to happen. So
Yeah.
I wish it was one easy answer for you, but honestly, it's not.
There's never is, right?
There really isn't, because you can't, like I said, you could eat all of the healthy organic salads all day long and exercise every day. And that's been the advice. Oh, just eat less, exercise more.
Yeah.
Okay. But what if you've got a toxic mind?
Yeah. Right.
You can create disease from your mind.
Yeah.
Right. Or what if you're not sleeping? What if you're not taking the time to heal, restoration? Like, then it's going to be, exhausting trying to get to that end result.
Yeah. I recently almost cut out alcohol. Like I rarely drink anymore, but I listened to a podcast with Dr. Huberman, Andrew Huberman, and he detailed like the effects of alcohol on your body. And basically, like, the summary is like, you I think it was like one drink, anything more than one drink a week is like terrible for your health, terrible for your body, right? So it just takes like one night of having a couple of drinks to ruin the entire week, and just how you feel in the week after, and everything, and sometimes even the day after, right? And I've noticed, just energy level wise, like cutting that out, clarity wise was a big one for me. Like how much clearer my thinking and everything was just kind of throughout the day.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, there's so many things that I feel like we could do to improve our health, and that things that are just like a normal part of our society.
Right. We've
Right. Like
normalized
alcohol.
it.
Right.
And that's the thing, is people forget is, alcohol is a group 1 carcinogen. It's in the same category as asbestos.
Yeah.
But
crazy.
we normalize it.
Right.
And everywhere you go, like, let's get it at the zoo. Why at a family function? Like, this is really, and what example are we setting too for our children?
Yeah.
And so I look at that as well. If people choose to do that, certainly that's their choice. But I'm on the same page as you. I want to optimize my health, and I want to feel amazing every day. And I know that if I do drink, I don't feel amazing. And so the new addiction to me is, I want to feel great.
Yeah.
I want to have a more productive day. I want my clients to get the best version of me. I want to be able to pour into them at a high caliber level. And I can't do those things when I'm operating subpar.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you start to realize, is it worth it? Not worth, and to each their own, right?
Yeah,
I
right,
just have
right.
found my sweet spot and what works for me.
Yeah, I've
And
literally gone through that thought process of like, I'm home. It's like the evening time. I'm like, this would be a time where I would have a drink,
yeah,
and I'd be like, like it sounds nice to have a drink right now, but then I'm like, but then tomorrow I'm probably not going to feel great. It might be clear, and it's like, is it really worth to have one drink to like ruin the next day? And I'm like, no,
yeah,
it's not. So
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, for sure. Agree.
So, I imagine like you have a morning routine or some habits and stuff that you stick with on a daily basis.
hmm
Can you tell us like what your morning routine is, or like what works for you?
My morning routine always starts off with meditation. So this morning I was up at 5. And so I have a place that I go to and I meditate every morning because I think mindset is critical
Hmm.
and making sure that I am getting myself in the right frame of mind and calming myself and starting the day off with intentions and helping me show up better
Hmm.
from not only for myself but for my clients as
Yeah.
well. So that's definitely my non-negotiable because I have really seen there's going to be a huge study that's going to be coming out shortly on the benefits of meditation, and it's going to be mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And so I was at the retreat I was at. There's researchers from University of California, Davis, that were there talking
Okay.
about it, and it is amazing,
Yeah.
the research behind that. So that's a non-negotiable. Movement every day. So I'd either go to the gym, go for a walk, like connect in nature, yoga, something of moving my body every day.
Hmm.
I always do, half my body weight in fluid ounces every day and water. That's a critical like component. So I always make sure I get water intake. My sleep is non-negotiable. So I always have to make sure that I'm getting adequate sleep every night.
Yeah.
So that way I'm more productive, more clear headed throughout the day
Yeah.
and taking breaks,
Mm.
stepping away. I've been notorious for being a workaholic
Yeah.
because I love what I do. So I could work from 7 a.m. till 10 p.m. at night. That would be
Yeah.
nothing for me every day. But I have learned that I have to step away. I have to take breaks and, find that balance and then have fun.
Yeah.
You have to have fun and you have to have a community. And so we make it a point to like once a month, my husband and I've got a trip planned somewhere. We've got to go
Cool.
do something and get away, like take time. We have our date nights. We do those things together too,
Yeah.
with our family as well. So it's very important that you have a good balance of,
Yeah.
fun plus work plus taking care of yourself.
Has it been hard for you to find that balance, or is that like a work in progress over time? Is it always changing depending on the season that you're in, or?
Yeah, it's definitely fun. It's becoming more fine tuned
Mm.
as I've been on this journey for a long time now. So then it's like, I want to be, I always tell my clients, you're never going to get the same version of me next year. Cause I'm always
Mm.
working on self growth and
I like that.
development.
I like that.
And so I'm always striving to be better and better. So I realize, okay, that area I'm not doing so good in. I really want to focus on that now.
Yeah.
And so so there's been times of my life where I'm like, maybe I got away from the gym for a couple of months because I was so focused on getting a program put together that it took up a lot of my time and energy and I didn't focus on me. And then
Yeah.
as a result, then I suffer. So I've had to learn the hard
Yeah.
way. Okay, I can do both and just
In
finding that
moderation.
in
Yeah.
moderation, finding that balance.
Yeah. I like that.
Definitely.
Yeah. I think that's the key, right? It's like a constant work in progress. That's what I've learned since really like since I started real estate. Like that's when I kind of got into like the personal development space and like reading more books on that and just being more aware of like my morning routine, morning habits. And it's evolved, and it's always changing, right? But I think just figuring out like your own habits that work for you are important. Like it's like, okay, here's like a basket or a toolbox of all the tools, and you just pick out what you want to use, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to ask you, last question, I want to ask you about your meditation, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is something I've gone back and forth with, right? But what is your meditation routine? Are you like sitting still, like no music, just clearing your mind? Are you listening to an audio that's guiding you through it, or what's your process?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've gone through phases. I've gone through phases where I used to just do 15 to 20-minute meditations. Now my meditations are an hour long.
Oh, wow.
At Dr. Dispenza's retreat, we did a 5-hour meditation,
Wow.
which was amazing
Okay.
because I honestly, I didn't know that it was 5 hours. I thought it was 40 minutes at best. you get so out of your head and out of your body that you're
Wow.
in such a deep state. My aura ring thought I was sleeping the entire time.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was like, that's so cool. But I do breath work in
Yeah.
it
Okay.
first to get my heart and my mind into, or my heart and mind into coherence
Okay.
with one another. So getting them synced together. So I do breath work, and then I do also then just do meditation. Sometimes it'll be quiet, and I personally like Dr. Dispenza's guided meditations for
Okay.
I do the advanced one. So it's very, it's not like you're soft, it's very instructional,
Yeah.
and I like that. It's
Yeah.
like kind of authoritative figure, and I like that because I follow along with him, and it keeps my mind following him, and that's just something that personally works for me.
Yeah.
But then there's times where I like to just sit in quietness because maybe I need to be at complete silence, because then that's when thoughts come to
Mm.
me of, programs that I need to create, or perhaps a client that I'm working with. I will get, intuitive or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So something will speak to me that
Yeah.
I need to work on this with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that comes in quiet time,
Yeah.
reflection.
I think that's a big part of it and that's what I've noticed. Um, like there's times where I don't have like that quiet time, and I'm just like, okay, I need just to like think through whatever it is, like your life or whatever's going on in that time frame. But yeah, like having that quiet space is important.
It really is. Like, as you think about the average person, from the time we wake up,
Yeah.
we're checking our phone, we're
Right.
checking emails,
Right.
notifications. Maybe you got to get on the call for work, or maybe you've got to get on your computer and answer a reply. And then you go about the day and you've got things going on, like you've got the radio on, you're listening to a podcast, you're doing these things, watching the news, whatever the case may be, in traffic, and get to your office, a bunch of chatter, dealing with, clients all day long. And then, home, kids running through the house, busy households, watching TV at the end of the night, check your phone before you go to bed, and then you go to sleep. There's never any quiet.
No, just
So how can
chaos.
we tap into our higher self if there's never quiet space to do that? And that's where I get really fascinated with this work. Meditation is so incredibly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the most life-changing things that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you create that quiet space, you start to gain more clarity. And that's where you really start to become in tune with yourself,
Yeah.
into a higher source, and to get, you get to deepen your work.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I love
Cool.
it.
Cool. I like it. Well, Jennifer, thanks so much for being here
Yeah.
and sharing your story. Where can people get more info about what you're doing?
Yeah. So first of all, Donnie, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
And yeah, so you can find me online. My website is rootedholistichealth.com. I always offer complimentary strategy sessions. So if somebody's struggling, or if they're like, don't know where to start, even if it's not with me, I've got phenomenal people in my resource pocket that I refer to. So, if it's out of my wheelhouse, I love to just help people.
Mhm.
And I love to talk to people because I like to see, like, what are they struggling with? Because
Yeah.
then it gives me ideas of things that I need to work on or create because if they're struggling with it, most times other people are
Someone,
too.
yeah.
Yeah. So online too. So I'm on social media. It's on Instagram, Jen Jenkins Health Coach. It's underscore in between each of those.
Okay.
And then on Facebook, my Facebook page, Rooted Holistic Health Coaching. So yeah, we're on a lot of the platforms. So
Yeah.
I would love to connect.
Yeah, that's awesome. Pretty simple to
Yeah.
find you, right? If they
Yeah,
want
for
to.
sure.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.